guys, Dr. Dex here. Today I'm rolling solo and I'm laying down some decking, running a bunch of screws, trying to get some patterns cut in, sand it out, trying to get ahead of the game a little bit. So follow along as you see how we install deck boards. If you like what you see, don't forget to click that subscribe button and hit the bell icon if you want to be notified every time we're putting out fresh content. All right, let's get going. All right, so what I'm doing today is I'm installing TimberTech AZEK decking. This is called Coastline. And we're using a hidden plugging system called Cortex. I'm sure you've seen it in our videos before, but I like to lay 4 to 5 boards at a time. Today I'm laying 5 boards at a time because they're not super long. They're only 12 footers. Usually if I'm running 12s or 16s, I'll install 5 at a time. Sometimes when I'm running 20s, I'll only install 4 at a time. But I'm taking these special spacers provided to me by AZEK, and they have an 1/8 inch gap on one side and a 3/16 inch gap on the other. So I'm running the 3/16 inch gap down, like so, and then I'm putting a special clamp. They're made by Irwin. They're called a Quick Grip, and they sell this adapter. It's a deck clamp adapter. Now they're not designed for these heavy duty clamps. They're actually designed for a lighter duty clamp, but I didn't like the lighter duty clamps. So I actually notched these clamps with a grinder to make these fit onto my heavy duty clamps, and then I now use these as dedicated deck board cinching clamps. That's all they're used for. I don't use them for anything else. These clips always stay on them, and they always are used just to do exactly this. You put this on here, you go like that, and then watch the boards. Now they're tight. And that's how I keep a nice straight line. I can clamp all these boards together, take a look at the line. If I don't like it, I can release tension. I can add a shim here and there to thicken a spot if there's a thin spot or something I don't like. I can straighten the boards as I go. That's why I like to lay 4 or 5 boards at a time, because I can control the gap. I can also control how straight my line is from one point of the deck to the other, which are all really important to me. I don't like to look down the line and go, and it goes like this. I'm like, whoa, who laid that? You know, I like to have things fit a certain way. So this is one way I've found. There's all different types of methods of how to pinch and gap and space your board. There's also several different methods on how you do a hidden fastener. For this particular deck, because we did a waterproof bladder and we have G-tape and all these things, instead of using a clip, which has to get through all that membrane material before it gets to the joist, I'm not comfortable with that. I want to pin these boards down hard so they don't move. So I'm double screwing and locking everything together, and it's every 13 inches on center. And the reason for 13 inches on center on this particular deck is because I have a lot of flat blocking 2x12, which is 11.5. If you run your deck 13 inches on center, you're going to have an 11.5 inch gap in between your joist bays. That allows me to build my bridges wherever I needed to. You can see one right behind me that's like right in the middle of a joist bay. Okay? And that's why this deck is all 13 inches on center. So I didn't have to run special blocking. I made that mistake in the past where it was just a nightmare. Trying to stack a bunch of blocks in a joist bay was not fun. So this works a lot better, and it works really good for our bladder. Keeps everything from leaking and keeps the water diverting properly. So anyways, now I'm going to take my clamps and I'm going to clamp up 4 zones. And I got actually 5 sets of spacers, so I only have 4 of these built, so I might have to go get a couple more. The initial investment was, each clamp's like 40, 50 bucks, plus the adapter clips. So, I was probably 250, 300 into these clamps. At the time I bought these, I didn't want to buy any more than that. But now that I've had these for a while, I can afford to go buy a few more so that if I want to do full 20 footers and clamp everything off at the same time and then screw it off, I can. So, anyway, that's a brief explanation of how I'm laying this board. So I lay 2.5 feet of decking at a time, and then I do another 2.5 feet after that. When you're running multiple sections on a really wide deck, a string can be your best friend. I have 4 different zones I have to lay decking in, and if I didn't pay attention, when you look down the line, it would go like this. and I want it to go like this. So use one of these and it'll help you. I've already, I do it about every 4 or 5 boards, sometimes every 10 boards. If I know I'm on point, I'll just come back. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be perfect. You just got to be close. Because you can make up a little 16th and a 16th here and there. Remember, if you change something 4/16, that's a 1/4 inch, which is a lot when you're laying a floor. So if you need to go more than that, then you probably had a problem when you're first starting. But I just use a string, and I just double check it, make sure that everything looks pretty straight, and it does. So, and I can even pin this thing with a couple screws, pull the clamps, and get a really good look at it with my eye too. I'll get down, I'll show you that in a minute. I'll get down on this board and really look at it and make sure it's exactly where I want it. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to put in a couple screws. I'm not going to put them all the way in, and then I'm going to double check it, and then if I'm happy with it, then I'll set them for the Cortex plug. Alright, so now I have the deck boards gapped the way I want them. I've pinned each joist, so I move my clamps out of the way just so I'm not kicking them and knocking them over and they're just kind of a in the way thing. So since each joist is pinned, my spacers are still keeping their spot. So my deck boards are still nice and straight. Alright, so now what I'm going to do, normally when I don't have a bladder I'm dealing with, I would just screw this off because I'd be able to see the joists between the deck boards. But because there's a waterproof bladder, I'm using a chalk line because it's amazing how bad you can get off when you're trying to chalk a straight line and then you start wandering. You might completely miss the joist. Then you punctured the bladder. Now you've created a leak. So far with the thousands of screws that we've ran in this decking, we only had one blowout because we hit a knot below the surface of the joist and it blew out our screw, and when we took it out it created a leak, so we went under and caulked it and then reran the screw. So this way this minimizes damages or potential leaks in the bladder. So I'm going to go through and chalk it. You can see the chalk lines already from the rest of the deck. This just keeps our screws straight even though we're Cortexing this whole deck. And you really can't see the plugs. Sometimes you can see them if the sun hits it just right. So I want to make sure that when you do see those plugs, that at least they're in a straight line. I use white chalk because it cleans up really easy. It does not stain the decking. And I can still get usually 2 or 3 pulls off of one chalk line. But the end got really wet last week and it's still drying out, so it'll hold maybe 2 lines worth of chalk. And then I have to re-chalk. I've never had a problem with white chalk, but actually blue chalk can stain PVC as well, just a little bit. But don't ever use red chalk when you're chalking off lines on a deck. You will definitely regret it. It will stain. Alright, so I had to take a few minutes notching around posts. Always take a minute. And so what I had to do was we put a unique squiggle instead of a straight pattern break. We did a unique squiggle in the deck as a break, so that we have 2 spots that are over, or a spot here that's over 20 feet long. And instead of running a random pattern, which I don't like to do and the client didn't want either, she'd rather have everything brake cleanly on some form of a pattern brake. So we came up with a squiggle. I had to start and stop the deck boards because I can't cut. It's really hard to cut a board this close to a post and get the gaps right and everything. So I had to take a minute and put the squiggle in place so that I could actually figure out where that goes and how it goes. And then now that that's done, I can go ahead and screw off my boards. All right. All right, so now I have this next section of the deck laid. I have it pinned in place. So now what I'm gonna do is draw all the cut lines, and I'm gonna cut this thing out and then finish screwing it off, and then I'm gonna start laying the next section of deck. When I'm cutting deck boards, I actually use the curved board as the template. Because if you just try to cut out a perfect circle on a deck and expect your curved surface borders to fit, they never do. They never will. Because decking isn't a perfect circle. When you bend it, it's almost impossible to make it perfect. So I'm having a slight issue with laying this out because I put the boards, I stacked them up like this against the trailer, and the ones with the least amount of radius were elongated. They're not crowned like this, they're kind of elongated like this, and I think they might have sagged a little bit in the sun. Not a ton, so it's not that big a deal. But what I'm going to do is, since I have to break this board because there's a squiggle that we put in the center of the deck, and I'm going to take that squiggle all the way out so it has a place to drain. Since I'm doing that, I can break this border into a couple different sections of the curve where it'll still appear to be a circle, but it will break in a certain spot, so it gives it a little bit of place, gives it a place to relax a little bit, so that I'm not tensioning on this board so hard. Hey guys, thanks for watching, I really appreciate it. If you got something out of today's video, don't forget to... Crap, where'd it go? Don't forget to click the subscribe button, and don't forget don't forget to click the bell icon. The bell icon, I tell you, if you want to be notified every time we're putting out fresh content. And if you want to learn how to bend decking, don't forget to go to the Dr. Decks Masterclass of Deckboard Bending. Thanks for watching today, guys. Have a great day.